Welcome to the courtroom, back in New York City. We were in Philly for a little bit, and we got a really, really special guest. I thought it was good to sort of bring an academic, someone who's been in the game as a music business professional for way longer than myself. We have Marat Berenstein.
Thank you for having me, Karl.
How are you?
Pleasure.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
We've known each other for a little bit now. He's a very good takes on the music industry, and it's an experienced and educated take. So I thought this was going to be a great opportunity for my contingent to hear you speak. One of the things I wanted to start off really by just like establishing who you are. I know you as somebody who was teaching at the Clive, as an instructor at the Clive Davis Institute, NYU's acclaimed institute, but also Art Garfunkel.
Art Garfunkel.
Tell me about your start in the music business.
Oh my goodness, we're going all the way back. Okay, so my very first gig in this business was going to work for Art Garfunkel, the legendary Art Garfunkel.
Yep.
My title was personal assistant, although many, many times I also held the title of personal assistant and tour manager.
Yep.
So we went on, European tours. We went on American tours. We did one Simon and Garfunkel show. Mm-hmm. It was the Katrina relief show at the Garden, and that was just next level to see that kind of level of A, superstardom, and B, of just the caliber of talent on that bill. It was Elton John, Lenny Kravitz,
right.
Simon and Garfunkel, people like Bill Clinton were there, and everyone was trying to raise money for the Katrina relief efforts. But yeah, I learned so much. I went from never having worked in the music business, because this was my first job out of college, and I went to school for engineering. So I went to Columbia. There was no music program there. And I only really fell in love with music kind of like my senior year, and I started managing my friends, just my roommate and his band, and it was so much fun, and that's kind of what I really wanted to do.
So where was that connection? How did you sort of...
So it happened through Columbia, believe it or not. So while I was at school, I ran this really fun organization called COURT, C-O-R-E. That stands for Columbia Organization of Rising Entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So it was basically an entrepreneurship club ran by students, and we had business plan competitions. We invited guests, alums. It was super fun. It was something that I did as just like an extracurricular activity. I enjoyed it more than my classes, to be honest. And you know how student-run clubs are usually assigned to the student affairs area of the school?
Yeah.
That's where we were the first 3 years. My senior year, they assigned us to the Career Center. They figured we were more aligned with the goals and values of the Career Center. So I say that to say that we built those relationships with the folks, the administrators, the young faculty members at the Career Center. And then fast forward to a few months after college, I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I definitely know it has to be music. Do I go and take an internship? That's a little tough after finishing a 4-year prestigious, I'm an immigrant as well. That's a whole other conversation about starting an internship after a 4-year Ivy League education, right? And as luck would have it, I get this super crazy email, and it came from one of my friends at the Career Center, and it read, it was cryptic on purpose. It said, a famous Columbia alum is looking for a personal assistant, paid position, involves travel, discretion, and proximity to celebrity. I will never forget that phrase. Proximity to celebrity is just the most badass thing anyone could say. We need to tweet that later and see where that goes. And it did not say what area it was in. Right. So it could have been policy, foreign affairs. It could have been anything. It didn't have to be music, and it didn't say who it was. So I applied with whatever I had at the time, whatever resume I had. I think was LinkedIn around? Maybe there was a LinkedIn profile in 2005. Yeah.
Was it LinkedIn in 2005?
Yeah, because I think so.
Okay.
LinkedIn's been around for a minute.
Yeah.
We'll check that. Anyway, I applied with something. Okay, I applied with some sort of link or document. And a week later, I hit up my friend there, and I was just like, "Hey, what's the deal? What's going on?" And he's like, "You're on the short list." And I go, "Great. For who? Like, who is it?" And he told me who it was. He said, "It's Art Garfunkel." So I freaked out, right? Because here I am looking for how to get into this business, right? And here is a legend, an icon, someone whose music I know. I immediately start thinking many steps ahead. You're like, "Oh my God, this could lead to this thing, and this could lead to that thing, and this could lead to, this is a good start." And it was a paid position, so I didn't have to go get an internship.
Right.
So I went for it. I wrote a really long stream of consciousness type of email, like why I want to do this. And then the next thing that happened was I got the call, and this time it was from him, from Art, and then I got the job.
That's amazing.
He just invited me to lunch, and I was like, let me check my busy schedule. I'm kidding. I went, and we had a good conversation, and then I started working that afternoon. He
That's awesome.
gave me a project to do. He was like, here you go, you're my new assistant, do this, and don't mess it up.
That's awesome. You know, the in the music business, it sort of happens that way. Like you couldn't even imagine, you know, it's a combination of like luck and, you know, preparation and opportunity kind of clicking at the same time.
What's that saying?
Opportunity meets preparation
Equals luck.
Equals luck.
Right? Did we get that right?
I believe so.
That's our version of it. Yeah. That's how we're doing it.
So, you know, that's just awesome to hear that. I mean, talk about some of those like those memorable moments you had with Art.
So the job was very tough.
Yeah.
Incredibly tough. It was a very intense experience.
Yeah.
It was something I did not expect. It was something there's no way to know how to prepare for that, because you're dealing with someone who's not only very famous, you're dealing with someone who's an icon, you're dealing with someone who's used to things being a certain way.
Right.
And you have to keep that balance at all times, right? But the good news is I was surrounded by wonderful people that were, you know, that comprised of the band and the touring staff and his son, who I'm close with to this day, who went on tour with us and performed, you know, on stage. His whole family, and we're great to this day. We haven't talked in a minute, but I was there for about a year and a half.
Okay.
We toured. I went to places I would have never traveled in my life.
Taxing probably though.
Super taxing. I mean, to this day, I'll talk to friends and they'll mention a city or a country, and I'll be like, I think I've been to Cork, Ireland.
Right.
I can't tell you anything about Cork, Ireland.
Yeah.
I can potentially remember what the hotel looked like, because that's the life that you live on tour. You're in and out of airports, you're in and out of hotels, and you're like, oh cool, I just visited Scotland. Don't know what it is. The hotel lobby seems great, right? So it was a lot of sort of, you have to learn to live on the go. Like you have to learn how to eat lunch on the go. You have to learn how to like stick a bottle of water in your back pocket of your jeans and just keep moving, because everything's happening super duper fast. And remember, you're there to help someone. You're in the service business now, right? You're not there to like, you know, this is great Instagram and social media. You're not there to like, it's not a look for you, right? You're there to assist. You're there to help this show happen, and you do that by helping the person who is the show. Yeah. Right? So got to see parts of the world and never would think I would. Parts of America I've seen. Like I've been to cities I didn't even know existed. Yeah. Because he was booked as sort of a variety show, right? He was booked in, you know, with the motto with William Morris, his booking agency at the time, and his management at the time was, look, if the promoter's gonna pay the fee and the promoter's gonna sell the tickets, we're going, right? Because there's no place probably where music's being promoted of folks who don't know who Art Garfunkel is, right? He sang a lot of solo stuff. He, of course, did the hits. It was, you know, look, as tough as the days would be, we at the end of the night, we'd walk off and I'd have goosebumps. It's like, wow, it's really cool. We just did that. You know? Also, one last thing, which is super unique and super public. He is known for his walk. So I know the look you're giving me is the right look. Yeah. So he walks continents as a hobby, right? So he walked kind of like, you know, he walked North America in the 80s. Like literally walked it. Like, so he would do it in stints of 10 days at a time. And just do 20 miles a day, walk alongside a farmer's road, have someone with him, maybe like a road manager or a friend or an assistant who would like pick him up on car, bring him back to the hotel, and, you know, would go out maybe 3-4 times a year to pick up exactly where he left off. Right. And so North America happened way before my time. He did Japan, and we were doing Europe. So I got a chance to not only travel with him as a music artist, professional, which is what he was, but I also got a chance to travel with him as someone who is conquering the land of Europe. We did 2 walks. Like we did Tuscany and Umbria, which are stunning parts of the countryside of Italy. Yeah. And you know, my job was to just make sure to get him to where he needed to be and to make sure he was progressing on his walk. And his walk is detailed on his website. Oh my God. Yeah, and then he wrote poetry on these walks, and it was very, very cool.
I think your situation sort of represents too a lot of people when they get into music business, where you kind of take maybe that first great opportunity that you get, but then you kind of learn that maybe you don't like certain aspects of the business and you don't want to do it. Was that kind of how you felt about tour management or the touring side of things in general?
Yes and no, because what I saw two things, right? Without having any context prior to that, without even knowing a person in the music business who could be like I wish I knew a young Karl who could be like, okay, hey, look, this is what a tour manager does, this is what an assistant does, this is what a manager does. I didn't have that, right? So I had to kind of learn from my experience of just being there. So I saw tour managing and being a personal assistant and managing as one and the same. To me, that was the category of management. Now, which side of it are you doing? Are you doing it as a tour manager? Are you doing it as an assistant because you're also managing a person as an assistant, right? Or are you doing it from like the back home office where you're like calling the shots and really coming up with strategy and routing the tours, working alongside with the agency? So I saw management as a career path for me because I was already doing it. I realized if I could assist, if I could be in the trenches, then I can manage, right? I can manage from a high level as well. And the other side of the business that I wouldn't say I learned it during that experience. It was just a seed that got planted in my head, and I learned it later, was sync licensing. Because I got to see that at the highest level possible.
And I think that's sort of the next phase of your career after you sort of settle back. But very quickly, I mean, how big was that? This is something I'm curious about. Art Garfunkel is a huge, piece of music. How big was that team?
So his team? So his team wasn't big at all. It was lean and mean. I think on the road at most we had 12 people. And that included the band, that included family members, that included myself, that included a production manager, a lighting person, a house, sort of all the bare minimum requirements for producing a show at that level. And that was just his solo stuff, right? So I was there to see one Simon & Garfunkel show. The big tour, which is the last tour that they did, the Old Friends tour, that happened right before me. So I can only imagine, or I heard from some of the folks that were on our tour, how much bigger that was in scale. Now you're doing bigger venues, you're now doing arenas many times over, you're doing stadiums, they literally did the Coliseum in Rowan. Like that is 600,000 people. That's bigger than their famous Central Park show.
Oh man. I mean,
it's pretty nuts.
That's crazy.
And remember, they made their hits together in the 60s. So this is literally the definition of timeless music.
So okay, you come back from that, you kind of have that experience, you'll go all over the world, you're fresh out of college, but that's your first experience really out. You come back probably, I'm assuming, and then what's next? What was that trajectory?
So I had a little bit of money saved up from the road because you don't pay for anything when you're on the road. Your food is paid for, your stay is paid for, so you can put some money aside back home. So I had a little bit saved up, and I met a really cool artist, and we decided to start working together, and I helped fund a project that we put out back in those days. I don't remember what we used, I think. Remember IOTA, or was that a little bit before? So IOTA was one of the earlier sort of TuneCore-like services. IOTA was probably bought by a bigger, maybe the Orchard bought them. One of the distribution services bought them, but IOTA was the first, one of the first. So it was like a TuneCore in the early days. We just self-distributed before everyone was self-distributing. And because the music was 100% sample-free, that's something that I kind of picked up on. Like, okay, I get it, I read up on it. If we control everything, if we administer everything, we can make
more
exactly. So that's what we did. And look, you need relationships for that, and you need to know who to pitch to. So just started building things out, just started reaching out to people, cold emailing, cold calling. This was the days of like AOL Instant Messenger. So like that was sort of like our Twitter. You would just like message somebody. Hey, what are you doing? Can I send you some music? And so we did that, and that was the start, the earlier days of start of the label that I started, Hit Me Music. Continued to do that, and then I got this amazing opportunity to be able to work out of the Decon Records office. Are you familiar with Decon?
No.
So they're called Mass Appeal Records.
Mass Appeal.
So Decon was what was the precursor to Mass Appeal.
Wow.
And they were over here on Oyster and Spring. And I started managing my dear friend Najee, and he went by Najee the One.
Okay.
Independent hip hop artist.
Yeah.
Did some really great stuff. We were working with young producers. Our only goal was like, can we do this sample free? Because if we do the sample free, we can license the ish out of it.
Right.
If we license the ish out of it, that is revenue and funding that we have to keep going. So I started doing a couple of things. I was based out of the Decon office. I had an arrangement with the founders where any license that I brought in for the Decon catalog, I would split the commission with them. And then anything that I did on the management side was sort of on my end, right? And so I did that for quite a while. And that was really an amazing experience because that allowed me to build relationships with all of the people that I call friends today. That's how I know most people in the music supervision community, in the music licensing community. And I would go out to LA and I would just sit down with a lot of people. And the most ironic thing about Decon being this like New York City indie hip hop label, and now in those years, was that its catalog was comprised primarily of West Coast backpack hip hop.
I don't know where I heard this, but I know that I knew this to be true. That's actually insane.
So like one of our biggest artists in terms of sync, is ACLO.
Okay.
And the cool thing about that is a lot of the music supervisors, most music supervisors, as you and I both know, are in LA.
Yeah.
They grew up on that music.
Right.
They grew up on Freestyle Fellowship. So when they knew Ace had a new project.
Freestyle Fellowship.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Decon had taught about Freestyle Fellowship, Ace, Dilating Peoples, Charlie Tuna, oh gosh, Alchemist. It was sort of like if you went down the list of like West Coast based backpack underground hip hop.
People don't even know Alchemist is like
oh my goodness.
LA, like
I know.
Yeah, he sort of mastered that grungy New York sound, so it's kind of like
he's
LA.
He lives in Beverly Hills.
He grew up in Beverly Hills. Yeah, when I looked that up and had to like tell that to someone, I was just like, that's one of the most insane hip hop facts.
Right, because he makes New York City sounding music.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Or you know.
No, he definitely does.
He definitely does.
Yeah.
Okay. But Decon had two very interesting projects that year that kind of set the tone for the growth of the company that was going to eventually, like what Mass Appeal is now, that's everything that Decon tried to do back then. So the two projects that kind of took it out of this sort of West Coast only backpack stuff were Freddie Gibbs.
Wow.
His first project came out on Decon.
And what year?
Ugh. Jeez. I want to say
07, 2008. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
07, 08.
Okay.
And here comes Gangsta Gibbs from Gary,
Indiana. Yeah.
Right? And then the other project, which you can't really pinpoint a city to this man, and to this day, it's the only label that's ever released this music, Jay Electronica.
That's right.
So Exhibit A and C came out on Decon that year.
New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah, but he reps Detroit.
He reps Detroit.
He reps London, and he reps New York, and he reps New Orleans, and he would never. I think if you asked him personally, he would be like, "I'm a
worldly man." He's a worldly man.
But yeah, so my time at Decon kind of came up, and Najee was picking up, and so Decon and I parted ways amicably. And then I just kind of kept going, and I kept going with Najee, and we started doing some really fun things. We started getting some really great licenses.
This is you said a couple of things where I'm just like, oh man, I'm triggered. You talking about splitting amicably? It's like, can you talk about like that? You know, you've worked with a lot of different people in the industry. How do you go about sort of like, how's that transition? Because I know of the heartbreak and the agony it is to put in hours of work with somebody, and then one day and the next day it's over. So sort of. What were those moments? How did you keep sanity through them? And I think how did you maintain great relationships maybe you don't have good relationships with some of the people you used to work with. But can you just speak about sort of like how those transitions happen for you?
I don't think there's a good way to split a relationship, whether it's professional or personal, or in our world it's both.
Yeah.
You know, that's the problem is that the lines are so blurry and it's super emotional because we are in the business of selling emotion, right? We're in the human business. I think my advice for that is when you feel it here, when you're like, okay, this is not working out, and you know the reasons why, you find the time to have that conversation. And the way the other party will respond to it is really not in your control. And just do the right thing. Say the right thing, do the right thing. If, let's say, one party owes someone, the other party's make sure that's accounted for and handled, or figure out a plan to do that, right? It's usually over those things that people
always
really beef. But I just think, look, we're good people, right?
Right.
Approach it in the same way as you would approach anything else in your life.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Put your kindness into it, right?
Yep.
And it will work out, right? If you're honest and you really, what you don't want to do is you don't want to overstay a relationship, or a working relationship, or an opportunity, or a role, or whatever, or a job. You don't want to overstay.
Yeah.
So my look on that is, you know that saying, leave the party when it's hot, right? Leave the party on a great song. Yeah. Like one of your favorite songs is playing.
You always think so great of that party too.
And leave it in the middle of that song. Say goodbye to your people, whoever you need to say goodbye to.
I almost wrote that down, but that's damn good.
Right there, because you're gonna walk out. That song's gonna be in your head.
That's damn good.
You're gonna be smiling, and you're like, "That was a good night." And if you left the party a little early, it's fine. There's more parties. There's more good songs out there, right? If the DJ's not trash. But leave the party in the middle. Don't even wait for it to finish.
Yeah.
In the middle of that good song, because then you'll walk out happy, right? What you don't want to do is.
If I take nothing else, if the listeners take nothing else from this interview,
leave the party on your favorite Drake record.
I don't know about that. Those get a little sad.
Right. But you know what I mean. What you don't want to do is leave the party when it's being broken up by the cops.
Nothing happens good.
That's awful, right? There's nothing that's gonna. You're tired. It's 6 a.m. You're like, why am I still here? What's going right?
Yeah.
So that's my advice. Yeah. Find that sweet spot, and you're like, yo, this was a good run.
Yeah. But
it's time that we move on.
That was great.
Here are the reasons why.
That's amazing. One of the things I wanted to sort of pull out before we move on is the sync and digital distribution space. It seems like you were there at the beginning of it, and you're still here doing it actively. What are some of can you talk about that evolution a little bit? Is it from my perspective? I feel like sync money isn't what it used to be. In digital distro, there's more players now, and the industry's always a little late. But what were some of the things that were happening back then that are still happening now, and what are some of the things now that are happening that could have helped at that time?
So I think no one could predict the future, right? No one knows what kind of mediums are happening. No one knows what the language should look like. And what was happening back then is people were not signing licensing agreements for rights that are as broad as they are today. So you've seen all the licensing agreements out there, right? It's the broadest terms possible, right? It's all media.
In the universe.
Perpetuity. And the reason for that is because they've learned their lesson, right? And their lesson was, okay, when they license things for only the cable and broadcast, right? And no one predicted that streaming and tech would create this entirely new economy called the content economy, right? And so I think you're absolutely right. The budgets have decreased. But in defense of that is there are just more places to license your music. So where you could have this situation back in the day where you may not want to license a song to a TV show, right? Because the money isn't as good as if that song is in a film or like a big budget campaign. That might no longer be the case anymore because of the many television shows that exist. So you can license a song for maybe less than what you'd want to license it for. That's usually what's happening. Might not even know it happened, right? So the music supervisor that's hitting you up, like, hey, can I put this in like a Target commercial? Might not even know that it was in a show on a platform that like maybe not even enough people know about yet, right? So I think that the individual license fees have decreased over the past, few decades. But now there's just more places where those license fees can go to. And now you can license music for obviously Apple TV Plus, Netflix, Hulu, like Peacock, like HBO has like 3 streaming services, right? Like the millions of things that exist out there can now. I see this now as an opportunity for licensing and for music. And it's funny you say that because I always kind of view like sync's piece in the music industry now because I didn't really see I wasn't around when the commercial budgets were big for songs and there's still some good money out there for that, but for me I always saw sync's part in the music business as the thing that drives records when records get a little stale or the things that sort of just revive records and make people want to stream them, and it's sort of your way of getting it. That's like the true value of it for me. It's like you might get the exposure of it. You might get a $500 check from a Netflix show, and it's just chump change. But like the real value is that's how much is that if you stream? What would that be from streaming? Think about that.
Correct.
That's
3,000. Right.
That's a lot of, you know.
Yeah, that's a lot of streams.
That's a lot of streams.
And a lot of times the real value is though, if you get it synced in the right spots, you know, it'll drive the other platforms. And I think that's where we're at with it.
Absolutely. I mean, look. So here's kind of a nice segue as far as my career trajectory goes. So when we were at Decon, we worked very closely with MTV, and this was the heyday of MTV unscripted, right? So this is like the Jersey Shore. This is like all of those big reality shows that.
Damn, you were there for the good.
That were just driving millions and millions of viewers to MTV.
Yeah.
And what MTV was doing was MTV never ever had big budgets for syncing their music, but they had a lot of great folks on staff who really were music heads, and these folks would go to the shows and they would go to South by, and they were just really genuinely into music, and they wanted to see young artists come up, and they wanted to see artists get paid, and they wanted to see exposure and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so what we would do was, I think they were called preferred artist deals, where you would pre-clear an artist from a label, or you would pre-clear an artist from a publishing catalog, and you would say to MTV, look, everything's pre-cleared, we're signing off on all the rights. That had to be true, of course, right? But now you could use artist X as many times as you want in all of your series and shows between today and 6 months from now, right? So like, if the supervisors really liked it, they were like, oh my God, we could put Freddie Gibbs in like all of our shows, and you get the PRO money, and then you get the screen, the Chiron, right? That's what it's called. The screen credit, and then MTV would tweet about it, and this was the iTunes days, right? So you would actually license a song to MTV, you'd get a couple $100, you get some PRO money, 6 months later, 12 months later, 18 months later. But when that show aired, when the Jersey Shore aired, when an episode of the Jersey Shore aired with that song, the next day your iTunes numbers were through the roof. You would do 500 sales on iTunes, 500 digital sales, right? That's like $500 on iTunes overnight.
That's amazing.
And then perhaps someone came calling, or you got an opportunity to do a show, or that's the exposure part that I think you're speaking about. But while at Decon and while working with MTV, I got another life-changing call where I would meet a dear friend of mine and someone that I used to manage up until very recently, Marat. And so MTV at the time was bringing in a show from the UK called Skins, and they were adapting it. And they were like, we have a young person who just dropped out of college, who's going to do our music supervision. And he's in New York, and we'd like for you to meet him, and he loves Freddie Gibbs, and we think that's a good fit. And I was like, I'd love to be a young music supervisor. Who wouldn't? That was my job. I had to go ahead and meet supervisors and build those relationships. And that's when I met Marat, and we became pals. And then I did not know at the time that a few years later I would end up managing him and helping him with his career.
Yep.
So that was a nice seed that was planted.
What time is this time frame?
I want to say this is now 09.
Okay.
It's a little blurry.
Okay.
But we're talking like 08, 09, 10.
Yeah.
So I got the call to come and join the faculty at NYU Davis Institute in 2011.
Okay.
This was the year before that. So
okay.
I want to say this is 09, 010.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was the next sort of call that changed my life was.
So at that time, were you doing at that time, was it like, I'm Murat, I'm doing...
I looked in the mirror every day and I said that.
Yeah, I'm Murat.
I was like, I'm Murat.
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Yeah. Were you less concerned about what you were being called, and you were sort of just like a Swiss Army knife of, management / sync?
So I was a manager.
Right.
So I was a manager. I led Decon.
Okay.
I was a manager.
Yep.
And I also did licensing. Those were two things that I did.
All right.
Right? So I guess I was a manager.
When you say do licensing...
Pitched music for licensing.
Okay.
For sync.
Yep.
Did that for my artists, the artists that I was managing, always. And I did that for a few other artists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I used sync licensing as a revenue tool. Right, so there are some managers that were able to use other things as revenue tools, like shows or endorsement deals, or nowadays you have managers whose artists could sort of function in the role of influencers, right? Because they're pretty and they're online, you know what I mean? They have a big Instagram following. But I was a manager that used sync licensing as a tool to generate money.
All right, cool. And you did that up until a very important role, which is, instructing over at Clive Davis.
Yeah, so I never stopped.
Okay, you never stopped.
I never stopped doing the management thing, and I never stopped doing the licensing thing. And in addition to that, I became a professor
At the Clive Davis Institute, NYU, very important
the Clive
music
Davis
school.
Institute of Recorded Music. It is a part of the Tisch School of the Arts at NYU. And I came in, I was asked to come to take over the spring high school program. The program is called Future Music Moguls. It is a diversity and inclusivity program. It is 100% free. The mandate for the program was to find 18 students that we believed were underrepresented in the world and underrepresented in music as an industry and very much underrepresented at NYU, where it's usually cost prohibitive. Right? And so we looked for students of color, we looked for young women, and it was just this amazing opportunity to spend a semester at Clive for free. And so we did it on Saturdays, and the program is still going. A dear friend of mine named Chris Wade is teaching it now.
Awesome.
Thank you. And so I curated the program. I looked after it. I always worked alongside a wonderful teacher who handled production. Beta Austin was who I started with, nice. And after a few years, Nicole Otero came in. And those individuals are rare. You know, women who are producers in music, who are available to teach. Yeah. The list of those people is like 6, and 2 of them we were lucky to have. So that is another reason why we did this program, right? Because you should have more women as producers. Right. You should have more women as engineers. There's literally no reason not to, right? And so the very first thing that I taught, and I remember asking the folks at the time, I was like, you guys sure I've never taught before. You want me to teach other humans? Like, do I need a degree for this? Because I don't have that.
It can be nerve-wracking too.
As a teacher, you know. Yeah. And they were like, no, just do your thing. I'm like, okay. And that kind of worked out well because I stayed there for 7 years. Yeah. So I ran the Future Music Moguls program from 2011 through 2018. Okay. A year in, I was asked to take over the summer high school camp. Nice. So that was a program that attracted kids from all over the world, the States. That was a tuition-based in-residence program. So students came in, parents dropped them off, they moved into Weinstein. They picked them up 4 weeks later, right? So we curated a full camp summer experience where we literally brought kids.
Any scholarships for that maybe sometime?
Yes, there were scholarships available for that. They were financial need based. Yep. And if I may, I'll tell you a very cool story that does not get told. So in addition to the 2 high school programs, which served as talent feeders, so the right candidates of both programs would end up at the Clive Davis School as incoming, at the Institute as incoming freshmen, right?
Yeah, so for sure. Yeah.
About 20% of the incoming freshman class was coming from both of these programs. And that was my reward, is the fact that I knew someone, I knew an artist that's been developing, and I've been able to mentor them and help and assist in their growth since they were 15, 16 years old. And now they're coming out of college and they're getting Grammys, right? So have you seen students who come out of that program in your time go from the Future program to a Clive Davis student and then kill it? Yeah. Okay. All day. Still seeing that today. Nisha Charles is a massive example.
Goat. She's a goat. She's literally one of the best.
She's a 24-year-old goat. Yeah. She was Future Music Moguls 2014. Yeah. She is the first Future Music Mogul to be nominated for a Grammy. She's the first.
No guidance. She did no guidance.
She's the first Future Music Mogul to win a Grammy. She won 2 Grammys last year.
That's right.
She was nominated for 3. This year she woke up to 4 more nominations. She's 7 times nominated. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Young.
She writes for Beyonce. Yeah. She writes
New Jersey too.
Jersey all day. Nisha's probably the biggest one as far as like the Grammys go, right? But there's Topaz Jones, who's you should know the love.
Did not know that.
There's Dwendita. Okay. There is IDK him, Chuma Ose, Combat Jack's oldest son.
Chuma's I hope you know he's a really good buddy of mine.
Amazing.
Chuma's a good buddy.
Him. Yeah. There's that list. Like if
Chuma's probably gonna watch this. So hey Chuma.
Hey Chuma. If we do this next year, I'll give you.
Yeah, we should.
I'll give you 6 more names.
Okay.
Right? And if we do this the following year, I'll give you 10 more names. So this is just growing and growing and growing.
That's probably one as you sit back here sometimes and you're like, those are probably some of your fondest moments about everything.
Currently. Yeah. And there's kids that you just don't know who they're quiet and then they've been cooking this whole time and all of a sudden they come out and they have all of a sudden they're Maggie Rogers, right? Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. part of the story that I wanted to tell you in answering your question about scholarships was one of the things I'm most proud of was helping to bring Pharrell to the program.
Nice.
And in 2015, 2016, we named him our Tisch Artist in Residence, our 50th anniversary Tisch School of the Arts Artist in Residence.
Oh.
And the reason we did that is because Pharrell Williams, he crosses multiple arts disciplines, right? So we didn't want to just keep him to ourselves, although we could have. We could have just, like Ryan Leslie was an artist in residence.
That's a good one.
Swiss Beats was a producer in residence. So we were blessed in terms of having access to great people. But with Pharrell, we didn't want to just keep him for Clive, right? We wanted our sister programs at Tisch to also experience what, so we did a couple of very cool things with him. We did a town hall interview with him at a venue called Town Hall, which with the help of the good folks at NPR, they live streamed it, and it's still archived as a fantastic Pharrell interview. It's a career retrospective that Jason King did.
I'm gonna go back and watch that.
Just Google the NPR NYU Pharrell. You'll get it. You'll see it's Jason interviewing Pharrell on stage.
Nice.
And I think there's maybe like 800 or 900 people in the audience, so we were able to obviously invite the greater NYU community. It was being live streamed, so people were watching it all over the world. I had friends who were hitting me up on Twitter as it was happening, who were like, "This is an amazing Pharrell interview," and I'm like, "I know, I can't believe we're doing it," right? Yeah. So we did that in the fall of 2015, and then when the 2016 semester rolled around, we were like, "Well, we need to do something amazing with Pharrell again because we have access to him for this full year." So we did a few things. We created a masterclass where Pharrell Williams sat down with Bob Power. Bob is faculty at Clive.
Yeah, Bob Power.
And we did a call out where we asked graduating seniors to submit music in consideration to be in this masterclass, which was going to be on video, which at the time we did not think anyone would see this other than like our nerdy music nerd friends, right? And 3 graduating seniors were picked to play a song for Pharrell with Bob in the room, in the studio, and have Pharrell give feedback, which was the point. And of course, this landed on a Saturday, so we said, we have to involve the Future Music Moguls. We can't, they're in the same building. We can't not have Pharrell pass by and not engage with...
Have the kids.
Right?
Yeah, have the kids. Yeah.
So we did that. We did all of that. We had, if you watch the masterclass video, which is now viral and has like 4 million views on YouTube, he surprised our Future Music Moguls class in 2016. And after that surprise, we brought those kids to watch him conduct the class. And yet we did not know what would happen, and we had no idea what the impact would be. But we knew something magical happened in the room when Maggie played him Alaska. Yeah. And we were just like standing there and just kind of like elbowing each other, being like, "What is this? This is amazing." Yeah. And then we're looking at the screen and we're like, "Look at his face." He was making the stank face, right? He's really digging it. Yeah. And so still at that moment, we had no idea what would happen.
It was going to be coming up.
And as you guys know, video came out shortly after, and immediately the attention went to the part where Maggie plays in Alaska. So we knew something really special happened, and we still didn't know how big it was going to be, and I don't think Maggie did either. But when that video was released, to answer the question that you asked me, we also announced a scholarship that Pharrell and his wife Helen graciously endowed, where they enabled 3 students from their Virginia-based program, sponsored by From One Hand to Another, which is his foundation, to attend our summer high school camp. So those kids would be phenomenal candidates for the Future Music Moguls program, except that they live in Virginia. So they just would have been able to get to New York every Saturday, 14 Saturdays. That's in a New York winter, right? That's not happening. The problem with the summer high school camp is it's a tuition-based program. You can't guarantee that the scholarships that are limited and finite would go to them. Right. So Pharrell and Helen said, "Here, if there's 3 awesome candidates from our camp that will attend your camp, we'll pay for them." Right. And so we did that. And so that was part of the rollout. That was part of the press release. That was part of the news of like, this is the completion. This is the commencement of Pharrell's wonderful artist residency. Unfortunately / fortunately, the narrative that kind of took over everything was the fact that a couple of months after the video came out, someone posted a link to the video on Reddit, and it was a sort of a clickbait type of headline, and it said, click here, something along the lines of NYU student makes Pharrell cry with her music. And I mean, I clicked on that and I was like, I need to see this. What is this? And I'm like, that's her video. That's Maggie. And like her, you should interview her one day. I mean, her life changed overnight.
Oh my God.
And you want to talk about Grammys? She is the first She's the first Clive alum to be nominated for Best New Artist.
Oh man.
So she's up against Lizzo,
Yep.
Billy, Little Nas X.
Yeah.
She's in that category. A year ago, I went up to SNL to watch her play, and she's the first.
I think I saw that.
To be the musical guest of SNL. So the school is new. It started in '03. And again, I really do mean this. If we do this interview next year, I will have more names to shower you with, right? I won't just say, oh, what about so-and-so and so-and-so? It's just growing and growing. Yeah.
A couple,
and before we continue, just to kind of complete the NYU story for me, in addition to the 2 high school programs I ran, that I ran, I taught, and this is where you and I can talk about for hours, and as we do, right? I taught music licensing at the college level. I taught artist management at the college level. I taught capstone 1 year. And I also helped out with programming in advance and all kinds of things.
Oh man.
Yeah, too many to list now.
That's amazing. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on, because I think you have the experience and just the foresight in a lot of ways. But you've been on the side of the artist and the creator, whether it be on the education side. Providing education is, the thing it eliminates gatekeeping, hopefully.
Sure.
But then outside of that, even managing artists, or even offering tour support and as a personal assistant, you've been on that side, and I think it lends you a lot in in the music rights side. So now let's bring it. I guess the spirit of I feel like Murat that I gather, and I'm excited to hear you speak on these things, is you really enjoy protecting and getting artists money for their works. And one of the things we talked a lot about off record was some of the Taylor Swift situation, or some other stuff that's going on in the music business. Where do you think there's room for artist advocacy at this juncture? What are some of the biggest issues that you see that are still happening in 2020 and beyond?
Well, great question. So I think the white space is greater than ever.
Yeah.
I think the room is that artists are taking back, well, not taking back, because I don't think they've ever really had it in the first place. They are creating and establishing their own leverage. Right. The biggest fight, and I think that talks to Taylor, that talks to the De La Soul conversation, is there's no need for a corporate entity or a bank-like institution to own an artist's life's work. Right? And so we're talking about a time now that we've already entered into. We're a few years into it. I think we're living in a we're living in a post Chance the Rapper world in terms of own your stuff. Right? Own your stuff, own your master rights. Maybe we should stop throwing the word master around.
Master is even
it's a horrible word, right? And it's not the engineering term, and we can talk about where the word comes from, right? Why don't we get rid of that word? Why don't we just say own your sound recording copyright? Own your publishing. And when a entity approaches you with a check or an opportunity, evaluate that opportunity. And if that means you're selling off a piece of your publishing, if that means you're selling off parts of your sound recording copyrights, maybe you're licensing them to a major label for distribution, maybe you're retaining them and you're just working with a distributor, right? But I think the conversation is very much already in and active in terms of companies like United Masters starting, are functioning and doing well, and our buddy Troy is launching Q&A, and we'll see what that's going to be like, right? But I think all of these folks are getting on the right side of history, right? Artists should and could own their own music.
I love when you say getting on the right side of history, because it's inevitable. And then when you start thinking about the playing field, thinking about even when you were coming up 15 years ago in the music space, TikTok, companies like that, kids are on that first, and you don't understand that you have that ability to get out there and do a lot of these things that a label's going to do for you, just because it's endless distribution, growing your social platform. A lot of these kids have social platforms, and they don't do anything. There's kids who just dance every day and have a million YouTube subscribers, but not even dance well, or just reacting to stuff, or creating reaction channels, or you're building those distribution platforms that you don't even know, and all
distribution has become a commodity.
Right. Distribution is a commodity. Correct. So I think you have a more fighting chance for that, and I think that's a great point. I think the starting point for any artist career is own your stuff, and if you're going to give a piece away, know the value of it.
Know the value of it, and
Yeah.
also not just own your stuff and know the value of your stuff, but control it.
Control it.
Right? You are
Control it.
finally you're in the driver's seat
Right.
of your own car that's on the road, that's your destiny, right? We know way too many stories of amazing artists that did not see the light of day.
Yep.
Right? Because they did not, their A&R who signed them left the building.
Yep.
Right? And no one else wanted them, right? And
Right.
so now they're shelved, and now their music cannot come out.
Yep.
Right? And I have friends who have experienced that, and that is demoralizing. It's like you were put on this earth to create, but there's this legal entity with a document sitting in a lawyer's desk somewhere, right? No disrespect to
Yo, get this man. I thought we came in and asked him.
No. You're one of the good guys.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling to think of that, right? You're put on this earth to create, and you were blessed with this talent, but there's a legal sentence somewhere that says you can't.
Right.
Or like with the EMI Kanye case, that's something I don't think you and I talked about. Like it said, you're not allowed to stop.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is insane. Yeah. It's predatory.
Predatory.
What sort of excites you about where we are?
The next 10 years
Right.
in the music business, artists establishing their leverage excites me a lot because there's actually only one chance the rapper, right? In the sense of like someone of that caliber.
Yes.
Like I think you know this, right? He was the first ever musical guest on SNL, and this was only like 3 years ago, or maybe 4, no more than that, right? He's the first musical guest on SNL to be booked to play SNL and not be signed to a major label.
Yeah.
You realize how trivial that is, but we're talking about 40 years in.
That's
right?
not trivial. That's not trivial at all.
Right, like that's huge, right? That's insane. But we use, and I did this in the classroom a lot, and I'm sure you use Chance as a case study because it's
Right.
such a good one. That I want to see 50 more Chance the Rappers in all genres. Like I want to see a pop version of, like I want to see a Lizzo without an Atlantic Records.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Atlantic Records, right? But like just for the sake of proving this concept to be true, like I wish Atlantic artists nothing but success in the company and whatnot, right? But they've also had their run and they will continue to be super successful, right? But I want to see artists like Chance. I want to see artists like Lizzo represent what Chance represents. I want to see more artists that are literally not signed to a major or an indie or anything, right? I want to see artists that are just literally doing it on their own and building their own brands, building their own companies and distribution channels.
Right.
That's what I'm excited about because we need to have 50 chances. We need to have a country chance, a pop chance, a more hip hop chance. You know what I mean?
We can do it, and there's been,
And it will happen,
and
right?
as you
It's
said,
gonna take time.
as you said, there's already been proven case studies. That makes it a really, really exciting time. I think me and Murat will definitely come back and talk a lot more.
Yes, please.
We established this history at least, and we've established a lot of different points that I can't wait to clip it up. But I'm so happy I got to talk to you on
too.
camera.
Thank you so much.
And you'll.